Jake, welcome to the podcast, man. So glad we got to connect and glad we're getting to do this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we are too. We connected about a month ago at the Samble and Swing event On It. So shout out Samble and Swing for setting this whole thing up. And we've been saying I've been in Austin since November. Harry's been here the last year, and just sometimes saying yes to those events. Like there's always like serendipity or connections to make, and that's literally how we had ended up. I forget how we ended up meeting. I think it was maybe we were talking to Claire, listened to the show, Claire. And then she was like, "Oh, you have to talk to Jake," and that's how we ended up setting this whole thing up.
Yeah, it's always cool. Yeah, always just saying yes to those things. Obviously, respect your energy, but when you go and you meet people, it always works out in your favor.
Definitely.
There's always something too about working out with people in those group settings too, where it kind of like breaks down the social barrier. And then you get to the point where you can actually connect with people afterwards and have really authentic and good conversations. Like I know we go to the gym Squatch here in Austin, and they do a community workout every month. And I've met more people through that than basically anywhere else in Austin. So I just love the fact of like engaging in community around health and wellness. It's just such a great way to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely. It opens you up. You get to move your body. We are all energy. So when we get to move in those ways, it allows us to have that connection, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Especially in Austin, just being able to have like-minded people around you that understand and get it. It's not so much like I'm just working out to get strong or to get jacked. It's more so I'm moving my body to feel and connect with others, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm curious why you said it, especially in Austin.
Well, it's definitely not like that in all areas.
Totally.
I know that growing up in Rhode Island, even in LA, it was definitely different. And yeah, Austin is just a different sense of community. Like people are just so much more connected with themselves here. And they do it for different reasons. It's just, yeah, people are more tapped into their energy and connectedness here. And so I definitely feel that energy here, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And I think the three of us definitely feel that particularly strongly. And for the listener, one of the things that we three of us have in common is that we all went to school in the Northeast. You played college football, we played college baseball. And we're kind of in that space of wanting to get out there and be more in a community that's centered around health and wellness. And a reason why we were particularly excited to have you on the show, like we were saying, is how we started is we're a show about nutrition. But why we were excited to have you on is that you encapsulate a lot more than just nutrition, where it's like you have an amazing perspective, which we want to dig into, but you talk about breath work, energy work. There's a lot of different disciplines that you encapsulate. So I think for the listener, man, just learning a little bit more about your backstory and how that kind of led that into your work as a life transformation coach would be a great starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely a loaded question. Yeah. So I will try and keep it short for the listener, but also so that people know who I am. But yeah, I started in fitness when I was 12 years old, going to the local YMCA in Wyoming, Rhode Island. And my dad brought me there, and I immediately just got hitched to it. It was just like, this is me, this is who I am. And I would go there every day. Like my parents would drop me off. I'd spend like 2 or 3 hours there. I would do that. And my dad built me like a Bowflex in our basement. So I would just do that like every single day. But I did it for football because I was always undersized, not as strong as everybody else. So I wanted to get stronger. And that's kind of what led me into it. In high school, I dealt with a lot of different injuries. And it was just every season. I didn't have a full season of like playing, like not missing games and not getting hurt until my senior year of football. Every other year, like broken bones and things. And I learned a lot through that experience. And I had some really amazing physical therapists. So I learned like how to get more in tune with my body and start to heal myself. I went to school at University of Rhode Island and Endicott College, where I played football at both. And I became a strength and conditioning coach from that, studied exercise science and nutrition, went to graduate school at Boston University, where I studied nutrition and metabolism. But it was really high school, college, where I started to really deal with depression, anxiety, autoimmune conditions, which all kind of piled up into one time in my life, where I was like manipulated by somebody that I looked up to as a brother for the first time. Got in a really toxic relationship. I dealt with like, I had probably 7 or 8 like confirmed concussions.
Damn.
And I got another bad one. So it was like concussion, toxic relationship, manipulative relationship, all came together at one time. And that was when I was 23 and I was strength and conditioning, doing nutrition work with people. But from like 23 up until now has been self-exploration and self-healing. And that is what has led me to breathwork and energy healing and Reiki. Because with my own practices, I realized that it wasn't just fitness and nutrition, it was much deeper.
Got it.
And then with every person that I work with, it kept coming up. Like we would work on their nutrition and then they would get up to a point where it's like, what's next? And I really searched for that what's next part. And then it just kind of came to me, like breathwork came to me, energy healing came to me. And those are really things that now I focus on well-being in that holistic view.
Got it.
Before we dive into the breathwork and Reiki and energy healing, I'd love to just understand your perspective on nutrition, because it sounds like that kind of played a critical role in helping you heal from that time period where you had the concussions, the relationships were being a strain on your life. So I'd love to just learn a little bit more about your lens on nutrition and how you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the connection to what you're putting into your body. And that's one of the biggest things that I realized while I was healing myself. When I was at school in Boston, I would be breaking out with hives, like just uncontrollable hives. I lost a lot of my hair.
Damn.
Was just going, and it was just because my body was in a sympathetic, like fight or flight state at all times. Because I went through just bad relationships and childhood stuff. And it was during that time that I learned about the connection with food. Like everything that I was putting into my body, I would see how it made me feel. Would it give me hives? Would I have mental clarity or not? Would it be like really foggy? And it was just like 1 or 2 years of just everything I put into my body, learning how it made me feel, how I connected to it, where I got it from. I learned that eating meat from even like Whole Foods and stuff, eating meat from Whole Foods, but then getting it from like pasture or regenerative farms, how that made me feel. So it was like, what is the work that goes into the food? Are people doing it in a regenerative, sustainable way? Because all that energy that goes into the food, the type of energy that goes into it is going to determine how you feel with your energy. And so that's what I try to now allow people to realize, is that it's all in the connection to food. What is the energy that goes into it? Because that's the energy that is going to be provided to you.
So you're super intentional about how you source your meat and the food that you're putting into your system.
Yeah, absolutely. Been more and more over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, now everything comes from, I'm sure you guys know Suretail Creek.
Yeah. We've had Sam on the podcast before. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. So I've worked with Sam, developed a relationship over like the past 2 years with him. But all of my meat comes from their farm. All of my eggs come from their farm. And then in terms of like produce and stuff, I found that Natural Grocers has the best. So I go there to get like all my produce and everything. But I typically eat mostly just meats from Suretail Creek and eggs, get raw milk.
Yeah.
And then some fruit and like local honey.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's all local. It comes from good sources. I've seen the farm. I know where it comes from. I know the person that grows the food. So it's just like, that's like the prime connection with it is, and that's why I source everything in that way now.
Yeah. What else do you need?
You don't need anything else.
Milk,
That's awesome.
meat.
Yeah. Milk, meat, eggs, some honey, some fruit, and you're good.
Yeah.
How has your diet evolved since playing football till now? Were you always kind of intentional, or like, I know we talk about it all the time, like when you're a college athlete, you kind of just can put anything down. Your bandwidth for what you can put in your body is insane.
Oh,
you're
shit.
practicing, you're playing,
Yeah.
and you don't even really realize how crappy you feel, but you end up feeling like garbage. And we always joke, like, what would it have felt like if we were eating this way when we were playing sports?
Oh my gosh.
So I'm curious kind of how your evolution from playing days till now has occurred.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I remember before my football games, I would have like 10 pancakes with like that really shitty maple syrup. But yeah, it's completely evolved. And I mean, in college, our coaches would instill into us like eat tons of food, eat all the carbs, eat all the pasta, like just eat. It doesn't matter how like where it's coming from, the quality of it, just eat.
Calories.
But I remember like I would have like a waffle with an egg sandwich that I would put in like some whole wheat toast, like scrambled eggs cooked in canola oil that I now realized. It was just not high quality food. I would be eating like Chinese food. I would get sushi every day. And I was just thinking like, I just have to eat food and I'll be good. But I would come home from school and I would be super inflamed. And I remember my strength and conditioning coach at home being like, dude, you're just super inflamed. And so it's definitely evolved from there. When I was playing college football, it was just getting calories. And now it's become, where are those calories coming from? Mm-hmm. What are the quality of them? And focusing on food much more as nutrients and information rather than just calories.
Yeah. I remember being in school, just like cranking pre-workout before like a 5:30 a.m. lift and just like eating McDonald's after practice and just justifying everything that I was doing of like, well, we're burning a ton of calories. It's calories in, calories out. Nutrition, that this is all that matters. So it's so interesting. Not that I regret anything, because it's almost like you have to go on that path to get inflamed to get to the point where you are now to be really intentional about sourcing your food. But it does make you think, how would you perform if you had that really good quality animal protein and saturated fat and were cooking all your meals? Just like, how would that affect your performance?
Oh yeah. I mean, I know that I would have not dealt with the injuries that I dealt with. I would have been so much more clear, like with having concussions and things then, if I had like really amazing saturated fats for my brain health, it would have completely turned around. Like by the end of my senior year with concussions, I couldn't even remember plays. Like I would be on the field. Like I have like this one vision of, I forgot the play and I ran the wrong route and my quarterback threw an interception and just getting reamed out on the sideline. But I literally couldn't remember. Damn. So if I had those high quality foods, would it change everything? But everything happens for the reason that it's supposed to happen. Yes. And because I went through that and know what that feels like, it allows me now to know what eating high quality foods, getting high quality information and nutrition into your body feels like.
Yeah. You had 6 concussions, you said?
I mean,
7 maybe?
Registered like 6 or 7. But I remember like I would just like growing up in Pop Warner and everything, just like smashing our heads together. Literally like I have this response now that if I go upside down or I get hit in the head, I sneeze. And that would happen over and over again. So there were probably so many.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there any like holistic concussion protocols or anything that you recommend for anyone that's dealing with head trauma?
Breathwork, meditation, and then just giving your brain like the nutrients that it needs. There's really no like people really don't talk about it too much. But But I mean, we talk about like saturated fats, like high quality fats, get it from high quality animal sources, grass-fed butter, raw milk, raw cream. Like these are literally like the building blocks of our brain. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to do that, you're going to start to heal yourself. If your brain is just an organ, you can heal anything in your body.
So you do feel like you can heal it?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I can think right now pretty well. I don't have any ramifications of it, but there was a long time where I was like crap. Like I've had so many concussions. Like I went through the end of my senior year. Like I would be sitting in class, and just not like remembering things, getting super bad migraines and headaches, just because of the concussions built up over time. But I don't deal with any of those things anymore.
Is there anything you would recommend avoiding for people who have concussions? It's basically, I'm assuming, kind of like the opposite of all the stuff you were just talking about in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, avoid the things that deteriorate your body. Avoid the processed foods, the seed oils, the processed sugars. Like those things literally deteriorate our bodies. Our body cannot live off of those things. And that's where disease and anything comes from. Like everything in your body is connected. So if you're getting low quality food, you're going to have a low quality life, and you're going to have low quality organs and a low quality brain and not be able to think well. So yeah, definitely just avoid processed crap.
Yeah. It's that simple.
It's literally that simple.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about what you teach is it's like a very effective and straightforward approach to nutrition. It seems like you're really optimizing for nutrient density, really good quality saturated fat, animal products, digest really well. You're sourcing it incredibly intentionally. How do you think about strength training? Because you were throwing up some big old kettlebells at the Onnit workout. I was like, before we met, I was like, who's this motherfucker throwing up the heavy ass kettlebell?
Yeah. I love kettlebells. I love maces, because in strength and conditioning for football, for all the years, we were just focusing so much on linear movement. Yeah. Like barbell squat, barbell deadlift, cleans with a barbell, literally barbell. Yeah. And that doesn't translate to any part of your life. Like you're never just in this static position. You're always moving. Literally, you're moving in all different types of ranges of motion. So that is, movement for me is it's meditation. And so when I have a kettlebell and I'm moving it in all these different planes of motion, I'm able to really feel into my body and feel how it moves. I can feel my shoulder move in all these different ways. And when I'm strong in all these different ways, it just makes your body feel so much more connected, and that you're able to move well. Like when you can actually feel your feet, you can feel your legs, you can feel all these parts of your body working together, you're so much more connected with yourself. So yeah, that's movement for me is meditation. And kettlebells and maces, because they're unorthodox and because it's like a handle with a bell at the bottom, or a long rod with a weight at the bottom, you have to control it, and you have to be present when you're moving it. And that's what makes like lifting like heavy kettlebells and stuff fun, because you're focused, you're present. And it also translates well to life, so that you can move in all different ranges of motion. And kind of like what I just said, like train for life.
Interesting.
Like
Had you done steel mace work prior to
that? No, that was the first
workout.
That was the first time. It was awesome. It was exactly what you're saying. But I felt very in the moment, very connected, which I'm interested in getting your take a little bit more on how you think about that word, because I think a lot of people might not really understand what you mean when you say that. But you really get into your body and feel it stretching its limits and moving in ways that you've never had to move before. So you have to be focused. You have to be present. So that's what I loved about it. I thought it was great movement work.
Yeah. It really is. I know that with Leo, like when I was doing that steel mace flow, that was the first time I've ever cried while working out.
Really?
Like we focused so heavily on that word connection. And we were connecting with our heart. Like he had us hold out the steel mace and like sit there, and he had us hold it while we weren't connected with our heart, just sitting there, and like you would shake, and then he had us take our fist and hit our heart and think about someone that we like loved and held true to us, and it would stop, and you would just be able to sit there. And that's that connectedness. I think it's a big thing with like connecting with your heart. But I would really say that connection for me and what that word means with strength training is just really being able to feel. Like in society, in our lives, we don't feel things. We don't allow them to process. So when you're moving a mace, when you're moving a kettlebell, you're able to feel your body as it's moving.
Yes.
And that connection and feeling is really why I love moving in those ways so much.
It's really well said, because it's not just like the brute force of a barbell or a dumbbell where it's just like this linear push, like doing that steel mace. There was a strength component, there was a burn, but there was also balance too. And it was, Leo put us through this whole like water flow sequence. And there was a whole, it was so interesting just working through that. I'd never done that before, any type of steel mace work. And it was just a totally different experience that I've been used to. It's cool just to like go out of your comfort zone and try new things in the context of movement and strength training.
Yeah. I would encourage like everybody listening or watching to this to try to move your body in different ways, because what we see on social media and what we're accustomed to, we think that we have to go and bench press and squat and lift these heavy weights. When you start to be able to move your body with a kettlebell or with a mace, you're going to feel so much different. Like you're going to start to like feel these muscles in your feet that you haven't felt before. Like you're going to start to feel muscles in your hands and in your shoulders that you haven't felt before. Like, whoa, this is cool. I actually have like control of myself. When you're just like doing things and linearly, you're kind of just working like a certain muscle group over and over again. And it's like, it doesn't allow all these other muscles to work in too.
Yes.
So you're going to feel like a different type of strength. That's really cool.
Let's take a minute to talk about some of the sponsors and brands who support the show.
Who are you thinking?
I was thinking about Carnivore Bar. What are your thoughts on Carnivore Bar?
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable product. We were lucky enough to have the founder, Philip Meese, on the show a few months ago, and he was able to send us a bunch of product when we started the relationship and absolutely loved it. I mean, it's a minimum ingredient product, beef, tallow, salt, and then they do have a honey flavored option as well, but it's so nice to have a bar that's like 3 to 4 ingredients. And like when you're following a carnivore diet, it's really tough to find products that are in line with that specific diet,
Yeah, for me, it kind of hits like the holy trinity of what you're looking for when you're looking for food. So it's nutrient dense, it's convenient, and it tastes great. And as you said, most people who are trying to eat healthy, the convenience factor is kind of a tough part. So just being able to have something you can grab on the go, know that you're going to have that nutrition for the day, it's huge.
Yeah, and we were lucky enough, we got to actually see their factory too in Missouri, and they're just doing things the right way. I love how they offer an option for like carnivore purists where it's just beef, tallow, salt. And then they also have an animal-based option too. If you do want a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of variety, they have the honey in that option. And they're just people that are doing things the right way. They're very mission focused. They're carnivores themselves. And, we're always on the go. We're traveling. We've taken a bunch of flights together. To have a bar that has 30 grams of fat too, like that's huge from an energy density standpoint, right?
Yeah, he checks all the boxes, or the company checks all the boxes. And I just think the fact that they're sourcing from a regenerative farm as well, and Joyce Farms, just a win-win.
100%. So Carnivore Bar. So we got the affiliate link, and then it's code MAFIA for 10% off.
And then another one of our sponsors, one of our favorite farms, Holy Cow. What they're doing at Holy Cow is pretty remarkable. The relationships that they've built in the industry and how long they've been doing the grass-fed, grass-finished regenerative model is really innovative. They were one of the first people to be doing that and supplying whole foods early on. Just a great community farm, and also just the product is something that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think number one, to your point, Harry, they're just incredible people. We got to hear them speak at the Beef Initiative conference in Colorado. We had never met them before, but just hearing Warren's story where they were following a standard American diet, he had a heart attack, and they were just looking for answers of like, how can we actually get healthier? Do I need to be dependent on medication? And they started changing their diets to incorporating more animal foods, and he completely reversed those symptoms of his stroke. And now they're just doing things the right way. They're grass finishing their beef. They're incorporating incredible practices. They have great relationships with the animals, and they're very passionate about just like connecting directly with the customer and also educating their customer on grass finished beef.
Yeah, and I think the best part is too, they're shipping nationally and trying to reach a bigger audience. So being able to not only supply beef nationally, but also educate people on the quality of good, clean, whole foods is just, it's an incredible mission.
How much do you love their beef bacon, by the way? I know that's your go-to.
Dude, it's one of the best things I've ever tasted.
It's that good.
No, honest to God, it's so good.
Holy cow.
Yeah. One of the other farms that supports us is Perennial Pastures, another regenerative farm out of San Diego. Our experience with Kevin Munoz, the owner, we had him on the show, a young first-generation rancher who's really empowered by this movement of regenerative agriculture and really wants to be a leader in the space. I think our conversation with him was so insightful just in terms of how mission focused he is and how he really thinks about his farm as a business and wanting it to be here 50, 100 years down the road, even though he's just the first generation of it. And I think just being able to spend time with him out in San Diego was kind of the perfect indication of that, where we got to go have a meal with him at his house, hang out with his wife and kids. Like, what an amazing person. And I think his mission focus around raising really high quality beef and restoring nutrients to the soil is just one of those rare missions that I think everyone can get around.
Yeah, he has such a commitment to really feeding the local community in San Diego, in the San Diego County, first and foremost, but he's also passionate about feeding the community around the country. So I know they've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources to being able to order beef in bulk on their website. So I know that they now offer quarter, half, whole cows directly off the website. They have that great ancestral blend ground beef product. So it actually has organ grinds mixed into the ground beef. So you're getting the benefits of like an ounce or so of organ meat, but because it's in the ground beef, you really can't taste it at all. And I think to your point, Harry, just another amazing person. You know, Kev was someone that he was following a paleo diet in college and started realizing, wow, when I nourish my body with real foods, I feel amazing. Had a really successful stint in tech, but realized that there was just something else that he was passionate about. So he's one of those rare cases where, you know, he put his money where his mouth is, and he's a first generation farmer, just, you know, bootstrapping this thing, raising money, and just so passionate about feeding the community. Just an amazing guy.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on organ supplements, and what do you think about the company that supports our podcast, Optimal Carnivore?
Such a good question, man. I think organ meat is something that's gained a ton of notoriety the last few years, and for good reason. I don't want to speak for you, but I think both of us have had a ton of benefits just incorporating organ meats into our diet. I would say that, you know, we definitely prefer the raw source of organs, where we'll just, you know, chop up some liver and some heart, and, you know, there are different ways to prepare it. I think the raw source is the most nutrient dense, but, you know, we're fortunate that there are companies like Optimal Carnivore that exist that freeze dry organ capsules, so you can actually take them on the go. You know, there are a ton of times where we're traveling where we're not going to have access to raw organs. So I can throw a little Ziploc bag together of Optimal Carnivore and be good to go. And I think 6 pills is an ounce of organs, which is like the daily recommended amount that will give you a lot of those really good quality vitamins in there. So that's kind of how I think we've been using it. Did I miss anything there?
No, I think the fact that it just makes organs accessible to people. And I think that organs are generally just a food group that are underutilized when it comes to eating nose to tail. And the nature's vitamin is a perfect name for these organ foods. And I think a lot of people are pretty, you know, in the mainstream object to eating organ meats. But when you put it in a pill form that's doesn't taste bad, it's convenient, you can put it in your backpack, it makes things a lot easier. And I also think that just generally these brands are Optimal Carnivore is focused on making people healthier, which is just such a strong mission. And, I think liver capsules is a great way to get people thinking about their health differently.
100%. There's probably someone that's listening to this right now and you're interested in organ meats, but the taste might make you a bit squeamish. You feel strange about eating raw foods. Maybe you cook liver and you don't like it. Maybe it has a metallic taste. I think that's also where the organ capsules play such a great role, is that you're still getting that nutrient density, but you're getting it in a very convenient capsule-like format, and it just takes away any of that squeamishness that you might have to the taste. It's just a great product. And also Richard, who runs Optimal Carnivore, he's started listening to the show really early on, and he's built his own organ supply chain and is just doing things the right way and really trying to support the right people in the space. So just proud to be associated with them, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for listening. Now we're going to go back to the show. Do you think the average person should connect with a coach? And the reason I ask is I see a lot of people, it seems like they're kind of like wasting their time in the gym, where they show up and they just do things that they see other people doing. And it really isn't all that effective or efficient, or they can't do it over a long enough period of time consistently to make it actually worthwhile. And working with a coach is just one of those things where, like, I remember thinking about my high school football coach, high school baseball coach, and that relationship that I had with them was so strong because they were able to see things that I couldn't see for myself, even though I was playing at a high level. So I just love coaches and love the value of like having them. I'm just curious to get your take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how has anybody gotten to the position that they're in their life? They learn from someone else. And yeah, so many people go into the gym or go into something. I think a lot of us have to let go of our ego and like thinking that we can go into the gym and just start lifting heavy weights, because I mean, you're probably like, you want to feel that confidence in yourself, like, oh, I don't need anybody else. But the person that doesn't have a coach and the person that has a coach, the person that has a coach is going to get 10 times further, 100 times further, so much faster than the person that doesn't have a coach. So you can either go in this zigzag line to try and maybe figure things out, or you can just learn from somebody that knows what they're doing and can teach you the things, and then you learn that and then you progress.
Yes.
And so everybody, like in all aspects of my life, I've had a coach that has helped me get to that next position, because where they're at is where I want to go. So learn from them, take in that information, becomes your information now, and then you can progress so much faster.
Yeah. We all talk about how growing up, having an amazing coach or an amazing teacher, they make incredible differences in our lives. And then for whatever reason, as a society, we've just normalized, oh, you've graduated from college or you're done playing sports. You no longer need a great teacher or a great coach. And it's like, no, in fact, you need that more, because you're just continuing to grow and learn. And if you want to progress, getting a master, a specialist in their craft is only going to help you get way better too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like learning is so much fun. And
so fun.
Yeah. In society, like, after we graduate from college, it's like, okay, no, you can stop learning now.
Yeah.
And no, it's
so,
actually, when you graduate from college, that's when you actually start learning.
Definitely.
And so it just to be constantly growing and constantly learning. I know that for myself, when I've just allowed myself to be open to it, these mentors and coaches start to come my way without even really realizing it. Like my business partner was a mentor to me at first, somebody I looked up to, and now he's like a brother to me, and he's taught me so much. And now we're at this place where before I was like looking up to him, but now we've come together, and now we're kind of at the same place and growing together. Where I've gotten to in my life, and I'm sure it's the same for you, is someone has helped me get there. Yeah, I've had coaches or mentors or teachers who have taught me.
It's great having someone who can show you what you don't see in yourself. Someone who can say, hey, you can run a 3-hour marathon, or you can, whatever your goal is, you can do this. And a lot of times I think we trap ourselves in our own self-limiting beliefs. But when you have a coach who's saying, I've seen other people do this, you clearly have natural potential. I know you can do this. It puts a lot of confidence in you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting a whole wealth of knowledge that you didn't have access to before.
Yeah.
Like you're getting an insight, like, okay, if you want to, for myself in the situation I'm in, I wanted to learn more about kettlebells and steel mace. So my friend Jared is he's called the crazy trainer, or he's Danielle's boyfriend.
Okay.
And I got introduced to him, and I've started to like go through his courses and go through his programs and learn. And now I have access to all this knowledge that he has learned over 10, 20 years. I'm now able to get access to that knowledge, which took him 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm able to learn it myself. And then I can grow with that. So yeah, you're getting like access to all this knowledge that can now become yours from having a coach.
Yeah. It seems like there's a particular open-mindedness to what you do. And what I mean by that is, I think you mentioned graduating college, you kind of have this traditional strength and conditioning, nutritional background. And I think in the context of health, it's easy to just focus on those topics because they are so important. They're such needle movers. I think we sometimes even get like pigeonholed on the podcast, sometimes just focusing on that. But something we're opening ourselves up to is that health is so much greater encompassing than both of those things. And, we were talking a little bit about the mindfulness, the breath work, the energy work, some of these other things that you've brought into your repertoire. So maybe we could just talk a little bit about, how were those concepts introduced to you and why did you kind of take to those things so much?
Yeah, 100%. I will start with how I got into it was last February. I got into a bad business relationship, still hadn't really done the work on myself. I moved to Houston for a little bit of time.
Interesting.
And that relationship fell through. Tons of money got taken from me. It was really hard. And I started to be open, and I started to say, like, screw this. I'm going to speak my truth. Which I knew was like talking about health in a different way, talking about nutrition in a different way at the time. And I started being a lot more open. It was during that time where thoughts of like taking my life were out there. It's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? It feels like every single thing that I'm doing is just like, it's just not working.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling, and I'm tired of struggling. And it was mentors and coaches. I had a really good mentor at the time that got introduced to me. Shout out to Sean McDevitt. And he really helped me during that time. Really helped me kind of look at the situations in different ways. He was a wealth of knowledge, and I started reading different books. And he introduced me to my business partner, Justin, who started to teach me a lot more about breathwork. And Justin is like, if you meet him, it's just like he is the most conscious dude you'll ever meet in his life. And I was like, I want that. And so I started to go to his breathwork sessions. I started to do his breathwork every single morning. Sean introduced me to plant medicine. I went and experienced Bufo for the first time and just got shot out of the universe. And that is really where my life started to change. And it was through that self-exploration, and it was through learning breath work that it led me to other plant medicines. And it led me to some really, really incredible breathwork journeys. But what really did it was I had a somatic breathwork journey. And in that journey, it was giving me the power of the breath to lead breath and lead breathwork sessions and bring people to the breath. And it was that moment that I was like, okay, this is what I got to do, I guess. So it's been learning all about that. That led me to breathwork, led me to Reiki, which led me to energy healing. And so it's really been that openness.
Yeah.
To just, and it doesn't even feel like it's necessarily like I'm going to get a little woo woo for a second, but like Jake being open, it's just like something that I feel like it's just, there's this thing carrying me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're going to go here and do this now and get introduced to this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just been that openness.
Yeah. So you had this initial business partnership in Houston that kind of like blew up, burst to flames, a lot of darkness, mm-hmm. some suicidal thoughts. But that experience is ultimately what helped you connect with your business partner now. It led you to breathwork and Reiki and plant medicine. And so it was like this darkness that actually led to a lot of good and a lot of beauty that came from that. It's pretty incredible how a lot of times that works.
Yeah. That in order for there to be light, there has to be darkness, mm-hmm. and vice versa. So yeah, I went through those darkest times of my life.
Yeah.
Really for like 2 years. And it was in that moment where I just decided to stop living my life in the way that I was, mm-hmm. and just really like do the hard work, go into the fear, go into the darkness, and speaking my truth and being true to who I knew I had to be was really what allowed the transformation to come.
Mm-hmm. What does going into your fear and kind of addressing those things look like?
It's just really sitting with yourself in our world where one thing to the next, constant, just doing, grinding. And we never take a second to be with ourselves. And so many people become addicted to the stress. They become addicted to living in the fear state. Like with watching news, watching media, it's all just fear response. And we live in that state. And when we do that, we're always up in our minds, and we're never really actually in control of ourselves. And we're running away from the shit that we know that we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And when we deal with that shit is when we sit and we get still and we get out of our mind and we start to get into our bodies and what's been stored within us. Like you probably have trauma that's been stored in your body maybe since you were 5. Mm-hmm. You have emotions that it's just like stuck energy. So when you sit with it and you get still and you become present, that's when those things are able to come up and you can start to face it. Like, oh wow, I didn't realize that in my life, because I'm having these bad relationships come up over and over again, was because of something I dealt with in my childhood that I've never dealt with until I got present and I became aware of it.
Yeah. In the context of your transformation, this version of Jake that you're talking about, that you're clearly very proud of and rightfully so, would you say that breath work was more impactful or plant medicine, or is it like it's not one or the other? They need to both be kind of utilized together?
For me, the most powerful journey that I had was in breathwork when I wasn't with plant medicine. Plant medicine for me has shown like what consciousness is, or kind of what this whole, like why we're here in a sense, like the universe that we talk about. It kind of just opened me up to like, wow, there's so much more that we probably will never understand.
Definitely.
Breathwork has really allowed me to connect with myself more. Like plant medicine kind of just shoots me somewhere, but it makes me realize that everything is happening for us. Breathwork is more going into myself and dealing with my things and like opening space for what I want to come in. I think that people can start with breathwork, like start with the breath, start connecting with yourself, because I have seen people who have gone on these really intense plant medicine journeys with no prior background of like breathwork or meditation or anything. And then they just get shot somewhere and they're like, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
So breathwork is something that we can tap into right now, every single day. And you can start to get that just sense more of a connectedness and more of a sense of yourself. And I think that you should, if you want to get into this realm of connecting more, start with the breath And then if plant medicine calls you, go there.
Breathwork is interesting to me because unlike nutrition, where maybe you can lose 10 to 20 pounds and see a quantifiable difference, breathwork is one of those things where I think a lot of people can benefit from it, but they don't really understand the benefits because after a week or so, maybe they just give up because they're like sitting there for a minute and nothing's really happening. So I'm curious, is there anything you tell people to break through that barrier to make them stick with the breath work and actually reap the benefits of it? Because I know there's so many positive impacts from just focusing on your breath and being a bit more present.
Yeah, I would really challenge people to start focusing more on how they feel rather than what they're seeing on the outside.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I lost 10 to 20 pounds. That's what I am getting my validation from. Or, oh, I look better in the mirror. That's what I'm getting my validation from. When you start to focus more on how you feel, then that's really where the transformation starts to come, because that is what people are chasing. When they say, I want to lose 10 to 20 pounds, you don't necessarily want to know, you don't want to lose 10 to 20 pounds. You want to know what it feels like to lose 10 to 20 pounds. You're seeking the feeling. You're not seeking that just kind of surface level thing. Like, start to focus more on what feelings are you going after? Like, how do you want to feel? So when you go and do breath work, it allows you to feel things that you haven't been able to feel before. And that's the focus.
Definitely. And that is one of the incredible things about breath work, is that you do get that instant feedback, that feeling. And I don't know of many other practices where within the first 2 to 5 minutes, you can notice a tangible difference before you start the breath work and afterwards. Something I've been spending a lot of time thinking about is like, how can I, instead of just hoping that I show up and feel really good to perform at my best, how can I schedule things into my day that are going to make me feel really good? And breath work is one of those things where it's like, I know that it's going to make me feel amazing. I just forget to do it, or just don't do it, or put it off for whatever reason. So I'm kind of using this as like a reminder for myself to start to bake that into my day, because it's amazing what 2 to 5 minutes of something so simple can do to you.
Oh yeah. Whenever you're feeling a little bit more stressed out or not as present, when you're like, it's funny when you start to catch yourself doing it. Like you go from one thing to the next in kind of this stressed out state. And then you take a second to just become aware and like focus on your breath, even for 30 seconds. Just like feel it, feel the air come in, feel the air flow out. But yeah, it can put us, like, if you start your day with 5 to 10 minutes of breath work just to start out, you're going to feel so much more present throughout the day and like be able to react to things better.
Definitely.
If somebody cuts you off at a stoplight, like such a cliche thing, but if you didn't do your breath work in the morning, you're probably going to flip them off and get pissed. But if you did the breath work in the morning, you might become a little bit more aware in that minute and just be like, oh, I'm sure they're just having a bad day. But yeah, like before I came here, I did like a half an hour with breath work on Instagram with like hundreds of people. And it's so amazing, like how you feel after that.
Yes.
You're going to feel so much better.
Do you put sauna, cold plunge kind of in that same realm? Because they're essentially making you focus on your breath, whether you want to or not.
Yeah. Actually, a cool story is on Sunday, I went to an event at the Sapien Center. I'm sure you guys know about that. Yeah. So I went to an event at the Sapien Center and we were doing like sauna and cold plunge back and forth. And then I was in the sauna with a couple of girls and they just started like opening up, like releasing and letting go. So it is another form of, just like focusing on the breath, connecting with yourself more, getting out of the mind and going into your body and your heart. Like the cold is a fantastic way to do that. Like kind of the masculine and feminine energy. When you get into the cold, you're going to kind of have to tap out of like that masculine, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this, and really just kind of go more into the feminine sense of like, I have to sit with this and be chill and be calm And that's a great way to, if you're up in your mind that whole time, you're going to freak out and want to get out. But if you can start to shut this thing up and go here and just be like, I'm okay, I'm calm, I'm fine, then you're going to be more present, you're going to be more calm, and you're going to be able to get through it.
I never thought about cold exposure through that lens of like actually sitting with your feminine. It makes sense though, because especially as men, you just want to like tense up or like think you can grit and bear it, and it's
grit
like,
it out,
right? And that's the opposite.
When playing baseball, like, don't grip the bat hard. If you want to hit it further,
less is more. Yeah. But we did when I lived in San Diego. Harry came out, and there's this awesome infrared sauna ice plunge place called Breathe Degrees up in Carlsbad, California, and they put you through 45 minutes of guided breath work, and then they put you right into the cold. And that was just, I'd never done 45 minutes straight worth of breath work, but it was such a like joyful, transformational experience. And there were literally people that were like crying tears of happiness, which I'm sure you've seen so many times. And I'm kind of just rambling and just saying that because it's amazing seeing what that breath can actually do to your mindset and the discovery that comes with that of just like getting within your own body.
Yeah, it truly is amazing, the transformations and things that can come when you just focus on something that you do every single day.
Yeah.
The first thing that you do when you are born is you take your first breath. The last thing that you do before you die is you take your last breath. What are we doing in between all of that? We're breathing. And yeah, there's been incredible transformations. I had my breathwork session that I did last night. I lead a class every Tuesday, and just from someone that like just lost their dad and was grieving from that and crying from that, to like a woman who hadn't experienced like a cycle in forever, and she was starting to like feel into that and be able to like have her first cycle ever.
Yeah.
It's just incredible the experience that you can have from that.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for actually like, when do you like to schedule breath work into your day? I know you're obviously leading classes, but for like the average person that's listening to this, that maybe is more nutritionally focused, they want to start doing some breath work. What are just some starting points that you would recommend?
I really love like first thing in the morning doing it. Just bringing that energy into yourself. For myself, and what I recommend to everybody is go grab a glass of water, get yourself hydrated. If you have some grass, go get grounded for a second, and then get into breath work. And if you're just starting out, like start with literally like 3 to 5 minutes. Literally just, you probably have never focused on your breath before. So just sit there for 5 minutes and feel the air move in through your nose and out through your mouth. And start there.
Yeah.
Like that's literally all that you have to do. You can sit, you can do that anywhere. And then it kind of grows from that. Like there's so many people out there that have like breathwork recordings, like myself, my business partner, Justin, we have guided breathworks, but the simplest thing you can do is just sit and focus on your breath for 5 to 10 minutes.
Is there a cadence that you follow? Cause I know some people follow like 4 by 4 by 4, but there's obviously a lot of different ways to do it. And I know some people can feel a little bit goofy when they start doing breath work. They're like, am I doing it right? Is it as simple as just taking a few breaths and hitting a timer for 3 to 5 minutes? So what's your recommendation there?
Yeah, it really is that simple. We don't have to put a cadence to it. We don't have to put any expectations on it. Somebody yesterday in my class came up to me and was like, I was just very stressed out about knowing whether or not I was doing it right. That's the amazing thing with breathwork. There is no right, there is no wrong. Just breathe.
Yeah.
That's it. Like just breathe. And whatever you're doing, as long as you're not breathing and just sitting there, like you just, whatever you're doing is perfectly okay and perfectly right. And that's something to feel into too. Like having no expectations, no judgment. Just breathe.
That's great. So you're saying take the resistance out of it, wake up, glass of water, ground, and then just get right to it. Because it's like when you start to let those things go in your life, and you have calls and meetings and work, and next thing you know, the whole day has gone by and you haven't done your breath work. It's like, no, just get it done first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And reap the benefit.
Yeah. Just start your day with it. you're going to feel more present. You're going to feel calm, just a little bit more peace in your everyday. And yeah, doing it first thing allows for that resistance to not be there so much.
Yeah.
And if you get yourself in the habit of doing it every day, then it just becomes a part of your everyday thing. Like, I'm not myself when I don't do my breath work.
Yes.
So yeah, just making it a part of your everyday.
The apps out there can be a really helpful tool. I used the Headspace app when I first started getting into breath work and was just doing like 3 to 5 minutes every time. There's an Australian guy telling you how to breathe, which is always great. Harry, breathe.
do they do breath work too? So it's a meditation app and they do breath work?
Yeah, meditation. And I think there's a breath work component. And then I appreciated the app was able to kind of walk you through certain thought patterns. So one of the things that I realized was there were all these subconscious thoughts that would just pop up into my mind that were so random. I'm like, why is this coming to mind right now? But he had this explanation during this one meditation that was just like, imagine that you're sitting here watching a river of your thoughts, and you're not supposed to be attached to any of the thoughts. Just observe the thoughts that are coming to mind and write them down at the end of the meditation. And that for me was just a great way to clear my head. Like no problems after that. The day was off to an amazing start because I was able to just clear all the clutter that was in my mind. So I think those apps are just an amazing tool for people to just tap into it, especially if they're just getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the apps are fantastic. There's Headspace. I know there's one that my girlfriend does. It's called Open. There's Awaken Breathwork. That's another app, which is led by Lucas and Hella, who are amazing. They have an app for it. Yeah, there's so many resources out there now.
Yeah.
Really just like pick something and stick with it.
Yes.
And then just do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love what you said too about like becoming aware of your thoughts, because when we can realize that we have a mind that is always going to be thinking, but we are not that. We have a mind, but we are not the mind.
Yes.
So getting out of those thoughts, it's like, yeah, we don't have to attach to them. Like, yeah, they can come. Right. They're always going to be coming, but we don't have to attach to them and like go down the rabbit hole with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really important mental model to live your life, because for whatever reason, I feel like we just don't want to admit as humans that we all have fucked up thoughts. Literally everyone does.
Yeah.
But you can choose whether or not you identify with those thoughts or not.
Yeah.
So that's why that's such a good mental model of like, just viewing your mind or your subconscious or whatever you want to call it as like a river, and the thoughts are flowing by, and it's up to you if you want to actually reach into it and pull the thought out and identify with it. You can also just let it go and let it float down the river.
It's also just a good internal audit too. Like, I didn't even realize this was on my mind, but apparently it keeps coming up and I have just been neglecting it. So that was something that I appreciated about the breathwork and meditation apps that I was using, was that they made me think about the thoughts that I was having, but neglecting.
Yeah, you got present.
Right, totally.
Yeah. So we've talked nutrition, nutrient density, kettlebell, steel maces, breath work. Plant medicine. Are there any other practices that kind of like help to encompass your approach that we maybe haven't talked about that you think are really impactful?
I believe that all those things are modalities that allow us to become more aware in our life. I love to use the word connected, but like really just connected more with your body, connected more with your inner self, connected more with your mind. These are all tools. So yeah, like breath work, sauna, cold plunge, moving your body, the food that you put into your body. These are all ways for us to just become more aware of ourselves. And everything that you do is information that is either going to benefit you or cause a negative effect.
Yeah.
If you're doing all these modalities and you're doing it all in intentional practices, you're going to get to that place in your life where you want to be. Like I said before, I believe everybody just wants to be able to feel, and these are all methods that allow you to actually start to feel. I don't think there's anything else besides that are really the like practices for myself. I think it's just being really like present with all the things that you're doing in your day.
Yeah.
Just like watch your intention of, these aren't necessarily like rituals or like a modality. It's just watch your intention behind everything that you do. Where are you coming from? Where is your energy coming from? When you go into your breath work, where's your energy coming from? When you go into your strength training session, how are you? How is your energy? And be intentional with that. Like everything is a practice, everything is a ceremony. And if you think about those things in that way, you can start to be more intentional with just everything that you do in your day.
Yeah. It also seems like consistency is a big part of your approach too. And what I mean by that is, you're a younger guy, you're 26, right? But you've been doing this thing for over 10 years. Since you were 16, you've been coaching and training people, and you've built an incredible following on social media. I think you're like over 630,000 followers. And I don't mean that in like a superficial way, but it's incredible what you can do when you stay consistent to posting. And I'm just curious if you have any recommendations for anyone that's listening to this that actually wants to build a following of their own or build their own online coaching business and is just trying to figure out the best approaches and practices to doing so.
Yeah. Stop giving a fuck what other people think and start being true to you.
Yeah.
Like we are all unique individuals. And if you're doing everything that everybody else is doing, you're like hitting this resistance of never actually being yourself. But like the funny thing with that is last January I had 2,000 followers.
Really?
Yes.
Last January
I had 2,000 followers.
Holy shit.
And it was at that moment where I decided I'm going to stop doing what everybody else is doing. I'm going to start being true to myself and just stop caring what other people think. And it was in that moment where like every single thing is energy. So if your energy, even if you think it's like on a screen, on a reel, is still giving out energy. So what is the energy? What is the intention that you are putting into that? Are you speaking your truth? Are you speaking from your heart? Other people are going to feel that. And it's naturally going to start attracting the right people. So like whatever you want to say, whatever you want to express, just start doing it. And then you're going to see the benefits and the ramifications of it.
It's an incredible piece of advice. And I know from trying to do it ourselves and doing it ourselves that letting go of some of the baggage and some of the resistance is so hard for people. But once you hit that point where you're just not thinking about what anyone else is thinking about you, it's like riding the perfect wave or skiing the perfect run. You just feel free and you're just able to be yourself. And that's like that last like 1% that people talk about that makes all the difference, right? When your heart is actually into what you're saying and people can really taste and feel the authenticity of the content, whether it's a podcast or a reel or a short, whatever it is that you're putting out there, they can feel it because it's genuine and true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the feel, like when you watch somebody's content, even like try it yourself, go through Instagram and like close your eyes and listen. Which one do you feel? Which one do you not feel? Probably the one that you're feeling more is much more intentional. You can just feel the good energy is coming from a good place. Even myself, I have to constantly check myself. I'll get like involved with like the Hormozy style stuff and all of that, but I'll even watch it back myself and be like, am I doing this more for like my ego and what I think I have to be doing? Or am I just doing it intentionally? And yeah, just doing things intentionally and constantly checking yourself and feeling into that. And you will start to get rid of those feelings of what everybody else wants from you and everything. And it comes from doing the work.
Yes.
It comes from doing the work on yourself.
Yes.
That's when you can start to stop caring about it and just being like, I know in my heart this is coming from a good place, and that's all that matters.
And that's why it's cool to reference your social media following, not in like a vanity metric type way, but more so like, no, this is proof of concept of you had 2,000 followers trying to be a carbon copy of everyone else. And then you finally said, F it, I'm going to lean into the things that are uniquely me, that make me Jake. And then social media is the ultimate meritocracy. It's like people are going to share and like things that they think are really good. And then you grow this huge following and have clearly like changed your life and have built out this coaching business and these online programs all through being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's all that the following is. I also think it's really cool that there's 600,000+ people that are now all coming together.
Yes.
In a community that's really just kind of like, I just kind of like to look at myself as like the guy with the lantern at the front of the line, just leading everybody. Like, hey, these are the things that I'm learning. Like, come learn. But it is, the ultimate showing of just when you speak to your truth, this is what is capable. I always, my friends and people around me are like, you don't seem like an influencer or anything like that. Like I would have never known.
Yes.
But that's when you're coming from that good place.
Definitely.
That's when you're coming from the heart. Like even followers and things, it's more so just like, wow, this is amazing. Like my things are paying off when you're coming from that good place.
Yeah. Well, that was the exact interaction we had On It, is that Claire had introduced us. We were talking about eggs from Shirttail Creek. We had a great conversation, and then and I think you gave me your Instagram handle, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's got a massive following. But of course you're not going to lead that in the conversation because that's not how you identify. So I feel like that's like a perfect example of that literally came true even in our interaction together.
Yeah. Just being true to yourself in all aspects of your life, and it's going to pay off. Like you're going to, the energy you put out is the energy that you will attract.
Definitely.
Well, Jake, this has been an unbelievable conversation. I think our audience is going to love the perspective that you've brought, not just from the nutrition standpoint, but from a healing standpoint, breath work, just focusing and channeling your energy, all really powerful stuff. So just appreciate what you're doing in the world. And before we hop off, just let our audience know where they can find you and what they can expect from you in the future. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of expecting from me is I'm just always going to be sharing what I learn, and I'm always focused on growing myself, and that's what you're going to get from me. Whichever ways I'm growing myself, that is what you'll get. But yeah, my Instagram is Jake_Whan. It's WHAN. And you can find all my stuff on there. And if you're ever ready to start exploring breathwork and exploring yourself and feeling more, I have lots of different events here in Austin and online. And check out Nirvana Mind and Body. It's coming out soon. Love it. Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes, man. But thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been amazing. Awesome. Thanks, Jake. Cool.